Hey guys, welcome back to Exotic Car DIY. We're going to be doing another video on the Mercedes. Me actually trying to fix something that I don't like about the car, the brake dust. These things are notoriously known for just spewing out dust everywhere. So two things you're going to get in this video. One, how to actually do the brake pads in the front. And two, we're going to be seeing if the EBC RedStuff brake pads actually reduce the amount of dust. So these are the brakes that come on all the E63s that don't have the carbon ceramics. Those 360 millimeters, and they're so bad at the dust that I literally drive different than I normally would. I literally try not to touch the brakes just because within one 25-mile drive, they'll be covered like this, and it'll actually spew down the side. So I was thinking about how could I do this video to actually make an objective test and you know, maybe clean them up, take them for a 20-mile drive, and then try to like show you how bad it is on my fingers or whatever. But actually, it's kind of unconventional, but I think it might work good. We're actually going to put these just on one side. I'll bed them in to make sure they're all set up right and all the coating's gone. And then we'll drive them side by side and we'll see how it works. Before we go on, here's a quick video of me getting the car all cleaned up. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up on here. We're going to do some mods on the Mercedes. I think next I got some ceramic coating, a do-it-at-home alignment, in addition to the cool videos we're going to have on the Ferrari and the Blazer and some other cars we're going to bring in. Keep watching, guys. Thanks. A lot of you guys have told me that you appreciate when I show you what tools I use for each specific job. So over here on the tool bench, we have the tools that I use for this job. There's not a whole lot. It's pretty easy. 13 millimeter, that's for the caliper. Of course, a ratchet. If you can get a swivel head, they come in wonderful. I don't think you need it for this job. 17 millimeter gets the wheel off, and it helps to have some kind of caliper piston retracting tool. This one's made to have the caliper off for it to work. I think it was only like 13 bucks on Amazon. There are better tools available, but that will help you to be able to retract those pistons without scratching anything. You do need a punch. I put a little masking tape on this. A syringe or some kind of method to remove the fluid from the brake reservoir if you decide to shove it back in. If you decide to bleed the brakes instead, you're going to need a 10 millimeter. Get a hex so you don't round it, and some tube. If you need to pull the caliper off, you're going to need either a 10 millimeter Allen, or if you take it off at the spindle, a 21 millimeter. In addition to the brake wear sensors, just some picks and a screwdriver will get them off. And if you're working on any Mercedes, you really should invest in one of these. This one was like 20 bucks on Amazon. It comes with just a variety of these Torx, and that proper ones. So a lot of people try to use 12 points and just get the correct tools. All right, so now we've got the wheel off. We can see our brake caliper. I've also rotated the wheel to the right since we're doing the driver's side, just so it's easier to work on. You can see. Obviously, the brake pads are on the side here, and they're held in by three different things. Well, technically four things. 2 pins that you have to tap out with a punch, 1 bolt, and then a spring that all comes out at the same time. And so let's go ahead and get started. Remember, you paid extra to have these pretty red calipers, so we might want to tape off the area just so you don't accidentally slip, knock off your paint. All right, so I'm just going to put a little masking tape around these, and then we're going to tap them out. So now that we've tapped them forward to get them started, what I've done is now take a punch, and I wrapped it with masking tape as well, and we're just going to use that to drive them the rest of the way out. All right, so now we're going to take a 1/2 inch socket and undo the main pin. So these pins we can simply just push down here, twist them as they come out. All right, so now that you've got all the springs removed, theoretically the pad should come out. What I'm going to try to do is I got this tool from Amazon, and we're going to put it in here and just simply see if we can just pry the pads apart. We need to get the pistons retracted. According to Mercedes, the correct way to do this, or their way to do this, is simply remove a little bit of fluid from the reservoir and then use a piston retracting tool to do it, or a wedge, it actually is what it says in there. You can do that. If you're confident that your fluid is clean, I would recommend that. Otherwise, I would actually open up the bleeder when you do it to get the dirty fluid out. My fluid has been changed on this particular car like 1,000 miles ago, and it's only got 12,000 miles total. So I'm fairly confident that the fluid is good enough to push back through the system. Since I don't really want to remove the caliper, it looks like it's working just pushing on the tops of the old pads. Okay, so it looks like that tool worked fine. Pads just slide out like this. These ones still have plenty of meat on them. Like I said, they only have 12,000 miles on them. Okay, as you can see, we have the pads out. The pistons have been retracted. I did have to remove a little bit of fluid from the top. If you're doing all 4 brakes, you probably got to remove a significant amount of fluid, and I would just remove more than you need and then put some new fluid back when you're done. Now, if you're removing the rotor, there's 2 ways to do that. There are these bolts, top and bottom. They're 10 millimeter hex, and then on the back side here, there are 2 caliper bolts. Now, Mercedes actually recommends you remove these bolts as opposed to these. You can do either one, but apparently there might be an alignment issue with these, like if you can't get it back on straight, as opposed to these, which everything will line up fine. The torque on these is 180 Newton meters, and on these it's 120 Newton meters. But luckily I was able to get it off. And if you're doing your rotors, just since some people might be watching this to do it, you do remove the caliper, do this T30 right here, and the rotor just comes right off. All right, so let's get to putting in the new pads. So like I said earlier, we're going to be using the EBC RedStuff pads. The people on the forums say that these have they're a good pad and they dust a lot less. So that's the whole point of replacing these right now. The EBC puts a break-in coating, I guess, to help you with bedding in. So curious what that's going to be like. Anyway, these are probably the world's easiest pads to put in. And that's it. Another note is when you're reinstalling the factory pads, they already have a coating on them. Mercedes says don't add any lubrication, and that's because the OEM pads have this gooey stuff, so you don't add anything to these. If the new pads you buy have that, don't install any lubrication. If they don't, and they're just bare metal like the EBC, yes, go ahead and install some pad lubes, otherwise they are going to squeak. All right, so now we've got the pads back in place. So first step is, this is going to keep the pads from coming out, so we can just insert that. On mine, it always is good to take pictures so you can remember the orientation. This part was up on the top, and so it's as simple as just pushing everything back through exactly how it was before. This top one's going to be a little trickier since we've got to pull it back. So I did make one mistake by filming the driver's side and not the passenger side. The driver's side does not have the wear indicator like the passenger side does. And so I'll just make a video real quick of how to remove that sensor. Before you even start, you can just pull on this and it comes unplugged. You need to transfer the sensors, as long as they're still good, to the new pad. If they're worn, you're gonna have to replace them. So we have a new pad here. They already have the little slot for it here. So there's two little springs that you can maybe see here and here if it'll focus, and simply you can pull on those springs, or what I did is I just kind of got a pick right here and just gently pried it out. Eventually the springs just lose their tension and it can come out. Install it into the new one and you're done. Okay, there you have it. That is part one for just swapping out pads. Obviously that's a little easier to do in an entire brake job. Maybe eventually when my car actually needs brakes all the way around, I'll maybe make a video on how to do a full brake job. The EBC pads were about 125 bucks from Amazon. I think the cheapest, a set of rotors for front and left and right, is about 720. So they are expensive, but I do think the dealer charges like $3,000 to do this, and obviously that's way much more money than it should be, and you've seen how easy it is. All right, so I will put part numbers for everything in the description. Part two, does the EBC brake pads dust less? Now to go make some dust the fun way. Alright guys, today to finish this video we are back in the shop. We're going to see if these pads actually reduce the dust or not. It's been roughly 3 weeks. The first week and a half and about almost 500 miles I spent just making sure the pads were properly bedded in. EBC has this super long bedding in process. Normal brakes you can have it done in like 30 minutes just following the instructions. EBC wants you to drive it for like literally almost 1,000 miles. I made sure that these were bedded in. I actually took them out to just double check. Anyway, they are bedded in. I cleaned the wheels, and then I've been driving it for about 150 miles. And so let's go ahead and take a look and see if this is done. All right, so here we are over on the passenger side. This has the OEM pads on it, and if we take a look, you can see there is a nice layer of dust. It's kind of hard to see in the shop, but that's what we're getting with one finger swipe. Let's do this too. We're going to take just a paper towel. We're going to do one finger swipe. So it, for some reason, it actually doesn't seem as bad as it did on the last one, even though it's been almost 150 miles. So let's go check out the other side, try to get a direct comparison. All right, driver's side. So this is the RedStuff pads in there. So let's go ahead and get kind of a finger sampling again. I'll use this finger. As you can see, that actually does not look good for the RedStuff pads. We'll go ahead and do the same thing. So if there's the OEM. Let's look at between the spokes. Okay. One more time, let's get some clean fingers. I got my ring finger. Okay. Let's go back over to the passenger side. We'll use a pinky. I don't know how well that's focusing. If I was to make a call based on what I'm seeing right now, I would absolutely say that the EBC RedStuff pads dust the same, if not more, than the OEM pads. So as for a test, I would say that is successful. It was not the result we wanted, but in my opinion, that the RedStuff pads do not help with brake dust. Well, there you kind of have it. Like I said, I think that helped me determine that. I could do some more testing. This is actually the second time that I've cleaned the wheels. The first time when I inspected them, the RedStuffs did have more dust, and I kind of chalked it up to being part of the bedding in process. So I cleaned the wheels again, then I drove it again, and we got basically the exact same results again. So they advertise these as a low dust pad. The people on the forum seem to tout them, or some people on the forum, it's actually debated, that's why I kind of did this, tote them as a lower dust pad. But based on this, I don't think they are. Another con about them, and I've had this with like my Acabona pads on other cars too, the pads click. So if you back up out of a parking spot, hit the brakes, they'll click, and then the first time you hit them forward, they'll click. It's just the pads kind of they move around inside the spot, while the stock ones seem to stay in place. Anyway, so yeah, kind of a disappointing result if you're looking for lower dust. I'm gonna keep looking, see if I can find something, but oh well, you got to clean it. I mean, the car's full of bugs right now, so I got to clean it anyway. But I do think it is related to what I explained earlier. The pads just not retracting from the rotors like they do in some other cars, and I think that's just kind of a trade-off that Mercedes made for a little bit more of a better brake pad feel. And you're just gonna get that. So anyway, I hope you guys like this. I'm gonna get this out and clean it because it is filthy now after doing this. And if you like these videos, just please like and subscribe.